What if I told you that a buyer can fully breach a contract, admit that they just changed their mind, and still get all of their earnest money back? Because that's exactly what just happened to one of my Dunning listings. And if you're a homeowner thinking about selling, this is something you need to understand before you accept an offer. Here's how this one started. I listed a single family home in Dunning on November 6th. Within 10 days, we had multiple offers, exactly what the sellers and I hoped for. The sellers chose an offer that checked all the boxes: strong price, fast closing, scheduled for December 23rd. $5,000 in earnest money. Buyer inspection went great, no issues. Earnest money was deposited, attorney review completed, everything was moving smoothly, or so it seemed. During the attorney review, the buyer's attorney added a modification that said if the buyer breached the contract, the seller's only remedy would be to keep the earnest money instead of suing for full performance of the contract, which that seems to be standard in every buyer attorney modification letter. And to be honest, in my 25 plus years, I have yet to see a seller go after a buyer and sue them for not going through with the closing. The sellers agreed because I told them that that was typical and they wanted a fast, clean closing. The buyer looked solid, everything else felt very low risk, and at that moment, it felt reasonable. Less than 1 week before closing, after the survey was done, title was ready, lender was set, everyone was prepared to close. The buyer's attorney emailed and said the buyers changed their mind. No inspection issues, no financing issues, no legal problem. They simply didn't want the house anymore. And then came the kicker. They offered to give the seller $1,000 and wanted the other $4,000 back from their own earnest money. Why this is where sellers get stuck. The seller said no. I said no, because earnest money exists for one reason: to protect the seller when a buyer walks away. But here's the problem in Illinois. Earnest money is held by a neutral third party, or even if it's the listing office, and it cannot be released unless both sides agree or a court orders it. So even when the buyer admits they breached the contract, the money is frozen. The house can't be sold cleanly. The seller is stuck. The only alternative? Litigation. And most sellers don't want to wait months or years or spend the money for that litigation, even though they could probably retain it back because the buyers were in breach. But I've never seen, again, a seller litigate for the earnest money. I immediately was trying to get a hold of the buyer's agent to find out what the heck is going on. Why are the buyers changing their mind at the last minute? And they knew that their attorney made that modification that the seller's sole remedy would be to keep the earnest money. So to me, it was plain and simple. You breached, the sellers get the $5,000 and we can go back on the market. Well, I got a hold of the agent and she told me, oh, well, my client seniors and I really don't know what's going on. The wife got sick. Well, my clients happen to be senior citizens as well and with health issues. That was the whole reason they were selling the house, to move closer to their son. She wouldn't get back to me anymore after that she didn't really know what was going on. But yet, when she wanted that contract signed, she was like this, getting back to me or calling me like crazy. But now she was hiding. So because of this, the home set off the market during prime buyer activity. Once we finally relisted it on January 7th, we adjusted the price to $364.9. The original list price was $359. And guess what? It went under contract in just 6 days at full asking price. But in order to legally close, the seller had to agree to release the original buyer's earnest money. Let that sink in for a minute. So the buyers breached and they got their full $5,000 back. Otherwise, we couldn't legally close with this new buyer while earnest money was still being held on the first buyer. So now I'll ask you what my sellers asked me. What is even the point of earnest money if a buyer can breach the contract and still get it back? And the uncomfortable truth is this: earnest money sounds protective, but contract language matters more than the dollar amount. And Illinois law often favors buyers in these disputes. They seem to always have even a legal loophole. They could say they didn't get financing and use that, as an excuse to get their earnest money back. I don't think it's fair at all for the sellers. This is exactly why sellers need experienced representation, not just someone who gets offers, but someone who understands what happens after the offer is accepted. I always tell my sellers right from the get-go that this is something that could happen. It doesn't matter if they give us $1 in earnest money or $20,000 in earnest money. They always seem to find a way to get it back. This is why I always tell my sellers, a deal isn't done until it's closed and funded, because this could even happen on a cash deal. And it has happened to me on a cash deal. That'll be another video. This sale still closed successfully, but it came with unnecessary stress, delays, and risk that most sellers never see coming. If you're selling in Dunning or anywhere on Chicago's Northwest Side, this is the kind of contract detail you want explained before you sign, not after something goes wrong. And if you want more real stories like this, the good, the messy, the lessons that actually matter, make sure you subscribe. I've got more of these coming. All my contact information is below. So reach out at any time if you have any questions at all. I have people contacting me on a regular basis. I love to answer your questions for you so that you fully understand what's going on, because Selling a house is not kind of a big deal. It is a big deal. For most people, it's your biggest asset. So you want to make sure that everything is thoroughly explained and you know exactly what to expect or what could possibly happen. We don't like surprises.